Welcome back to the program. We have on the phone Jan Morgan, who recently announced that she's going to be forming an exploratory committee to potentially run for governor of the state of Arkansas. Jan, welcome back.
Oh, great to be back with you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So glad that you could be here. Big news yesterday that came out. There were several stories about it, several articles about it. I know you posted about it on your Facebook page, and there's just a ton of people that are encouraging you. Just kind of walk us through what brought you to this decision where now you're thinking of potentially running for the governor?
Well, first of all, let me just respond to yesterday's announcement that we were establishing an exploratory committee. Paul, it has been overwhelming. I had no idea that it would generate the kind of response that we've received from every corner of the state and even across the nation. Of course, what I'm focused on is the kind of response we're getting from the state, because what matters the most is that people in the state let me know that Jan Morgan is who they want to bring about the change that is needed in our government. Those are the people who are going to be voting, and those are the people who I need to hear from. So I just want to ask people who have messaged me. There are thousands of messages in my message center, and our team is working as quickly as possible to answer those and to return phone calls. I'm just asking for people to be patient because none of us were expecting the kind of overwhelming response. Just to one post on my page, it was like 5,000 responses. Another page was like 3,000 or 4,000,
yeah.
and then it's been spread on other pages. So we're excited about that, and we're encouraged with that. But we've got to keep that momentum going, and we've got to sift through that and see how much is Arkansas and what are people saying. So. Anyway, a great day yesterday, and we're moving forward and just asking for people's patience in our response to them.
That's a lot of responses, and the only thing that's really happened is you said, "Hey, I'm thinking about it officially. I'm thinking about doing it," and there's just a lot of positive responses out there. So Jan, tell us though why. What has led you to even consider this? Is it the state of Arkansas politics right now?
Yes, it is, Paul. But, I have been out on the national stage fighting on a number of different fronts. As you know, I was an investigative journalist for over a decade, exposing corruption in government, have won a number of press awards on investigative journalism. And then I've been out there as an activist, a citizen activist, fighting for the rights of the citizens, not only gun rights, but just, constitutional rights, and trying to educate people about the most important issues that are happening in our nation that affect all of us. But I received a phone call last year by Senator Linda Collins-Smith, one of our greatest conservative legislators in Arkansas, and she called me in panic mode. She said, "Jan, I need your help. I need you to come to the state capitol. I am in the middle of a serious gun rights issue, and I'm having problems with Republicans." So I was shocked to discover and didn't believe her. I could not believe that we would have Republicans voting against the rights of citizens and voting rather to restrict the gun rights of citizens in the state. So I did join her at the state capitol, and once I saw what was going on, and then what she connected me with the senators and reps that were the problem, once I confronted them about why they were voting and acting like Democrats, and they kept referring me back to the governor. They kept blaming it on the governor, and then I confronted the governor. And I had a lengthy discussion with him and did not get the resolution that I wanted from his office. He basically threw it back on the legislators. So the bottom line is we are in a crisis mode, Paul, in the state. Some of our greatest conservative legislators have been butting their heads against the wall because of the establishment. The establishment Republicans who are cowering under the pressure of the governor to vote against the will of their constituency. They're voting the governor's agenda rather than the will of the people who elected them. That is problematic. It's the same thing that we have happening in D.C. It's just happening in our state. And so that is what pulled me in. And as you know, and probably, it's pushing over close to 1 million views now, when I went nuclear in House Judiciary on establishment Republicans, I absolutely just went all over them. That video went viral. It was shot by Arkansas Times, and that kind of put me on the stage on the state level with citizens who may not have been aware of what I had been doing on the national level all along. And so that's when I started getting all these messages from citizens across the state saying they were just sick and tired and fed up with business as usual. They thought that electing President Trump in the state of Arkansas, that Arkansas going for Trump would send a message to the establishment Republican Party in the state. Apparently, the establishment did not get the message. It was business as usual. So now here we have Judge Roy Moore was elected, and that should have sent a strong message to the establishment on a national level and should have been a resounding message to the establishment on the state level in Arkansas, too, that people are enraged. We are fed up with business as usual. We are tired of being promised one thing. We are being tired of electing people who represent themselves as conservatives and then get elected and start voting and acting like liberals. So we've got some issues here in the Republican Party that we have got to deal with.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program today. My name is Paul. Thank you so much for being with us. We can't do the program without you. You found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. And we're building a liberty machine here. And one of the ways that you can help us out, you can call or text us 870-275-9799. Not only are we broadcasting on Facebook Live, YouTube over at paulharrell.com, but also on radio stations across Arkansas as well. I just had somebody that mentioned that. And if you want to check out the other stations that we're on, you can go to paulharrell.com and then click on the About tab, and that'll give you the information that you need there. So we certainly appreciate it. Happy Thursday to everybody out there. We have a lot of news to get to today. It is fascinating to me. I want to start, though, with this first headline that's in front of me. There has been a death row inmate because of a technicality that is now free after nearly 17 years in prison. NWA homepage reports that a death row inmate is now free after spending nearly 17 years behind bars. Ricky Newman. Now, is this the same guy? Is this the same guy that was going to be executed, earlier this year? But I think it is. I could be wrong, but I think it is. Newman was originally arrested on charges of capital murder following the killing of a woman, according to records from the Van Buren Police and Crawford County Circuit Court. The records show that Newman, who was a transient rail rider, killed a woman named Marie Chocolat, at a wooded camp in the vicinity of Lee Creek Park. Chocolat's body was discovered in a tent in the woods. She had sustained several lacerations and stab wounds to her chest, as well as a deep slit in her neck, according to the medical examiner. Records show she had been the victim of severe mutilation while she was still alive. And they know this because several parts of her body were missing, including part of her liver that was not found at the crime scene. Following Newman's arrest, records show he sometimes maintained his innocence and would then recant. At one point, he wrote to the circuit court and prosecuting attorney insisting he receive the death penalty. Newman sometimes said he did not kill his victim. He claimed it was his alter ego. But he's also made verbal statements, I believe, and written statements. In a statement he made to police in 2002, he said that he had drugged this woman and, quote, sacrificed her, end quote, according to documents. Newman confessed to killing this woman in front of members of a jury. In June of 2002, Newman elected to testify in front of a grand jury, remarking, "I went across the bridge and I bought her alcohol. I drugged her up, I got her drunk, and I killed her." The Arkansas Supreme Court, though, is now saying that these taped confessions cannot be used because of mental deficiencies, because essentially the guy's crazy, the guy can't, they don't know. That's what they're saying now. And so he's free. That's what we know. He's free. Now, Chelsea Brown, can you give me audio control, Joe? Chelsea Brown over at nwahomepage.com, she interviewed the prosecutor over this particular case several years ago. His name is Ron Fields, and this is what Chelsea Brown had to say, and this is what the prosecutor had to say about the Arkansas Supreme Court's findings.
The state Supreme Court ruled Newman's taped confessions are no good due to mental defects.
His statements also should be suppressed that he made back then, both in writing, in videotapes, oral statements to other people about killing the woman, because the mental diseases and defects kept him from understanding his Fifth Amendment rights to not incriminate himself.
So that's prosecutor there, Ron Fields, and what he's saying this guy didn't understand his Fifth Amendment rights. So he didn't understand that he had a right to not say anything and keep from incriminating himself. That's why he's now free after all of this. Now, look, I haven't read these documents, and I haven't read the confession, and I haven't done any of that. But I'm just here to tell you, just on face value, This just seems like a miscarriage of justice, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, look, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it wasn't him. But if you understand that he has made confessions, but no, at what point? At what point? Because look, I certainly have seen this guy. If you look at photos of him, he does not look like everything is going, doesn't look like he's making all the connections. Looks like he is crazy. Okay. But at what point, if you look at what he's accused of doing, it just seems like it's, to me, a miscarriage of justice. Tell me what you think about it. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Again, the Arkansas Supreme Court saying that this individual is going to walk. Very interesting news out of Arkansas today. Now, moving on from that, feel free to sound off again, 870-275-9799. A couple of things. Donald Trump, let's go here. This is from thehill.com. President Donald Trump is now defining life as beginning at conception. We, at the beginning of the week, briefly brought you the portion of Jeff Sessions' directive to prosecutors across the country, essentially saying that religious freedom, religious conscience is is important. It's part of the First Amendment, and then you're not going to be able to force people to do certain things. But now we bring you, and the left is, of course, going nuts over this. Trump's HHS is defining life as beginning at conception. Joe, can you scroll down here a little bit? It goes on to say HHS accomplishes its mission through programs and incentives or initiatives that cover a wide spectrum of activities serving and protecting Americans at every stage of life, beginning at conception. That is according to the draft. Now, this is kind of, from what I can tell, it's an announcement from the Department of Health and Human Services. It kind of goes in tandem with this story. Joe, go to the next one. Trump to use the power of the pen for new health care. You can't really take one of these stories, in my opinion, without the other. President Donald Trump took to Twitter Tuesday morning to share his displeasure with Congress for failing to repeal and replace Obamacare. He says, since Congress can't get its act together on health care, I will be using the power of the pen to give great health care to many, many people. He goes on, let's see here. I'll probably be signing a very major executive order where people can go out, cross state lines, do lots of things, and buy their own health care. And let's stop right there. If that is in fact true, and Trump has or is going to use a power to be able to go across state lines and things like that and purchase insurance, gosh, that's what we've been asking for a long time. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine what that could do for competition? Especially, and you know what? It would only work if, and there's really two issues here, the legality and just the practicality here. Let's talk about the practicality first. There's a lot of these healthcare executives that want government jobs. Nobody talks about this that I have heard but me. When the top-down approach happens, if true national health care, socialized health care, we kind of have more of a fascist version of health care right now where the government is controlling companies, blurring the line between companies, but it will be these healthcare executives that end up becoming, at the tops of these insurance companies, they'll end up becoming a National Institute for Health or National Health Department or whatever, administering the single-payer system, as the left calls Medicare for all. And I believe that's what some of them want. Let me say that again. I believe that's what some of them want. I think some of them are radical leftists. I don't think that they are capitalists, and if they ever were, they've made now so much money, they probably feel guilty, and they're going to believe in this whole, let's throw all of our money into one big pot, and let's divide it up equally nonsense. And, of course, it won't ever be, they're going to get a much larger share than what we'll get, which will be considered equal. These healthcare executives, and I've got proof here in a minute, just wait on it, these guys have enjoyed the blurring of the line where their, quote, private business ends and the government begins for a very long time. It's been going on in America for decades. It was made much, much worse with Obamacare, and we here in Arkansas went even further. And instead of just expanding Medicaid under Obamacare, we decided to take that taxpayer money and funnel it directly to Blue Cross Blue Shield to pay premiums on people that don't even go to the doctor most of the time. And yet the insurance company gets paid every month regardless of whether or not somebody actually goes to the doctor and uses a service. It was a complete scam. Crony capitalism doesn't even begin to adequately describe what a scam Medicaid expansion was, using our tax dollars to provide a guaranteed or a perceived guaranteed stream of revenue to a, quote, private company. It is still to this day, it's completely embarrassing. So, but the practicality of this is, I would look, if Donald Trump does with an executive order, make it somehow possible to buy insurance across state lines and all of the components that go with that, with your individual state insurance agencies and things like that, and the bureaucracy and stuff like that. I'm just going to tell you, I think these healthcare companies will do everything they can to make it a disaster. I think they want government jobs. I think they're so dependent on it, and they don't want competition anymore. That is my prediction. I don't think Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield wants to actually have to compete. I don't think they actually want to have to compete. I think they want government to quote, well, the government said that we had to do this. Never mind the fact that with the individual mandate, you're forced to buy our product. Wink, wink. Oh, the government's suppressing our insurance business. It's just making us millions and millions of dollars in profit. Oh, so sad. Now, let's talk about the legal side. This did kind of stick out to me. At the end of this article here, Representative Buddy Carter, Republican from Georgia, said, I don't think there's any question about it, referring to the executive order that Trump's signing. I'm a member of the legislative branch, and I would rather us do it legislatively. However, in this situation where we can't get the Senate to pass anything, obviously the president's got to do something. Let's just make sure whatever he does is legal. Because I've countless segments about President Obama, what I believe, legislating from the executive branch illegally. And I certainly don't want Donald Trump to do that. And this is the way it goes, though, right? George W. Bush pushes the envelope. Nobody on the right says anything. Then Obama pushes it further. Nobody on the left says anything. And, I'm tired of that cycle. It's a very dangerous cycle, and we need to do everything we can within the confines of the law. Donald Trump may very well be doing that in this executive order. I want to find out, though. And when I do, I'll let you know. The phone number, 870-275-9799. I'm going to bring this back down to an Arkansas level. Even more so, when we come back, we're going to go over this headline, which is Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield is now suing over drug plans. They're being punished by a government entity. Just hear me out. We'll be back in just a moment.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Do you need conservative legislation killed?
Or do you need policies enacted that ensure government growth?
Then you need to get
Nephewed. Hi, I'm nephew number 1 of uncle, nephew, and nephew, attorneys at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a senator.
And I'm nephew number 2, and I am a lawyer and also a senator.
Are you the victim of a recent accident in which the voters in your community mistakenly elected a limited government conservative who is now actually implementing the ideas he or she campaigned on?
That's right, nephew number 1. Don't be a victim of democratic elections any longer. At Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew, we are committed to killing limited government legislation and promoting bills that increase the size of government by using any tool at our disposal.
Because sometimes the truth of the matter is, principles get in the way of pragmatism.
Just listen to some of our great testimonials.
Ever since I've been using the nephews, all my special interests have been served. As long as you make sure your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, then the legal services of uncle, nephew, and nephew are legal. Trust me, put the nephews on them.
It came out of nowhere. I was blindsided last election cycle when my well-funded and paid-for politician lost to some grassroots limited government voters. But then I hired the nephews, and they killed all the conservative policies the voters wanted. I got nephewed.
I got nephewed too, and so can you.
Uncle, nephew, and nephew will accept compensation via campaign contributions.
Put the nephews on them.
PHP Parody. Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
All right, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. What are we doing here? Again, that number, 870-275-9799. Let's see here. Let's see, what is this? See, I'm reading some of your Facebook posts here. Are we talking about taxes here? I'm reading Corey's posts. I can't. Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm just now reading some of this stuff. So I'm wondering why my choice to not have kids makes me pay more taxes. Corey. Oh, I have a friend I used to work with. If he's listening, that was his biggest pet peeve. His choice, or his plight or whatever, not to have children, and yet, looking at the tax code. Everyone's looking at the tax structure right now. We had a caller yesterday who was really upset that Asa Hutchinson and the Republicans have squandered their legislative opportunities and authority to actually measurably reduce, if not eliminate, our income tax. So because we're not going to be, if Donald Trump's plan goes through as drafted, we're not going to be able to deduct our 6.9% income tax, one of the highest around, from our federal income tax bill. Now, I've read some articles today that Donald Trump is now reconsidering that, by the way. Donald Trump is now reconsidering the fact of how this would affect other states, even leftist states, or maybe even middle-income Americans and that sort of thing. Of course, the idea, and I'm sure Republicans know this, the idea is to make these liberal states actually have to shrink their tax base or shrink the amount of taxes that they're collecting from the people, and I certainly get that. But also, with all this, just keep in mind that Governor Asa Hutchinson staffs an office in Washington, D.C., to, number one, keep tabs on, I honestly think Asa Hutchinson wants to know if our delegation to Washington, D.C. is more conservative than he is. Note to Asa, they are, number one. Number two, you want to keep tabs on him. I mean, that's why Asa Hutchinson has an office in Washington, D.C., to keep tabs and to promote a concept of unity between Senator Cotton, Senator Bozeman, and the other four congressmen, because you don't want something to sneak up on you. You don't want a perception that somehow Arkansas is moving in the progressive direction, which we are, while they're trying to move us in a different direction up in D.C. that's contrary to contrary to the big government dreams and schemes of Governor Asa Hutchinson. At least it's just my analysis, as you notice he does have. I mean, just think about this for a second. Can we think about, who staffed the Washington, D.C. office for Asa Hutchinson before Michael Lamoureux left the chief of staff position here in Arkansas for the governor? Her name's Allison Williams. She left the D.C. office to go and become Asa's chief of staff. I uncovered that Allison Williams donates to the Democrat Party. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Max Brantley wrote about it because I tweeted out the image. She gave money to Warwick Sabin's campaign, a Democrat. And now we have nephew Jim hiring Randy Bauer, a lifelong Democrat who has a Twitter feed that looks like somebody who's, I don't know, about to be very popular because maybe they're going to start like a drum circle in college on the lawn or something. And this, I guess we shouldn't be surprised then. Should we be surprised if Asa's chief of staff is a Democrat, that the nephew number one, isn't going to say, all right, I'll hire an advisor on taxes who's also a lifelong Democrat? And there's a pattern that is developing here. Back in just a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
And that is where I am. So,
yeah.
So because of the response of thousands of Republicans from all over the state, I decided to say, okay, we'll explore the possibility here and see what kind of response we get. So, and that's where we are today.
Well, and I understand you're going to be. There's an event on Saturday, isn't that right?
Yes.
Where you're going to be speaking over in the western part of the state.
Yes, in Alma, Patriots by 746 group, which is the strongest pro-gun rights organization in the state of Arkansas. And by the way, that organization is growing by the day.
Yes.
And I expect, if not already, that it's going to have more lobbying power against the anti-gun people in our state legislature than the NRA. That's where it needs to be. We really need for state-run gun rights organizations in every state to really take control of the gun rights issues in their state. Because as we've seen, even on the national level, the NRA was very disappointing just this past week on the gun rights debate. I'm going to get into that in further. But just to let you know, that's going to be a big event October 15th in Alma from 2 to 4 p.m. I'm going to be there. They're speaking to the folks. And then really that's sort of a kickoff launch, Paul, to a listening tour that I intend to do and had already planned to do, irrespective of the whole governor thing. I am in it for the people now. I am committed to the people of this state to fight for the people. They saw that when I was in House Judiciary, and I'm going to do that regardless of whether this exploratory committee develops and turns into a, yes, Jan Morgan needs to run for governor thing. Regardless, if that doesn't move forward, I'm still committed to the citizens of this state. I'm going to be fighting for them, not only on the gun rights front, but on a number of fronts, which is why I'm going to do this listening tour.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on events in every single county around the state so I can hear from the people and talk with the people and get to know better the primary concerns that the people of this state have that are not getting addressed.
And I want to correct something here. I said Saturday. It's actually the 15th is on a Sunday.
It's Sunday.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we get that
Sunday
right.
afternoon.
Sunday in Alma.
Sunday afternoon, 2 to 4 p.m. in Alma, Arkansas.
We're talking
at Warren's Rec Room.
Warren's
Very
Rec Room.
casual, by the way. Very casual. You know, the thing about Jan Morgan is we've got to do a $100 plate fundraising thing here. This is for the people. And
right.
this whole, what I'm doing is about the people. And so we want to make sure that no one is excluded because they can't afford to come. And that's why I think there's a $5 cover charge just to make sure that the place that we're using is going to be covered on their expenses. So, yeah, it's very casual. Come as you are.
We're talking with Jan Morgan, who's now a potential Republican candidate for governor, announcing this exploratory committee, this listening tour. Now, you mentioned the same problems we're having in Arkansas are some of the same problems we're having in Washington, D.C. I want to play a little excerpt here. Sean Hannity recently interviewed Steve Bannon. Of course, Steve Bannon, big supporter of Roy Moore and, upsetting the establishment. And I just want to play a little bit of what Steve Bannon had to say on this Sean Hannity interview a couple days ago.
Got hostile Republicans that are apparently willing to go on a suicide mission if they don't get anything accomplished. They don't get the budget done. They can't repeal and replace. They don't even want to fund the border wall. If they don't do those things, they're going to suffer in 2018. President Trump's not up till 2020.
They have to understand. There's a basic agenda that President Trump ran on and won. He carried states that Republicans haven't carried in living memory. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. This agenda works. The American people voted for it. It's their responsibility. By the way, McConnell would not be majority leader unless Trump in North.
Fighting dependency on government so Arkansas can be the land of opportunity once again. Paul Harrell is on now.
Yes, welcome back. So I got off on a rabbit trail. You'll have to forgive me. I want to focus more. Okay, so Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield is suing over drug plans. And this doesn't have to do with Medicaid. This has to do with Medicare. Okay? So we're jumping ship, but this is, we're not jumping ship. We're jumping topics just slightly, and the reason I want to highlight this is because I told you in the first segment that this line between private Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance companies and the government has been blurred and been attempting to be, blurred for decades now. I mean, it's just been going on for such a long time, right? Now, again, my contention actually is that a lot of these Blue Cross Blue Shield executives or insurance executives across this country, if we ever had, because of Obamacare, they got the ball rolling, if we ever had socialized, full-on, single-payer, a system like that, these guys would be absorbed into the government as to shut them up. Just to shut them up at the very least. Just to say, you're going to be fine, you're going to get taken care of, we need your expertise, and, you know, what it would be, it would just be the biggest bunch of propaganda in the world. Now, some of them, I'm telling you, I think some of these executives want that to happen. I'm not going to say they all do, but I'm telling you, a lot of these folks, I mean, think about this for a second. People have had trouble with insurance companies and health care long before Obamacare was enacted and everyone lost their insurance. You know what I mean? And it's always been the Republican mantra, the conservative one, correctly, has always been, you know, you've got insurance companies between you and your doctor, and now we're going to put the government between you and your doctor. The fact is, this has just been going on for a long time. It's just slowly. It's gradual. It is so gradual. If you were to implement Obamacare, you know, pre-1960s, you know what I'm saying? You'd have had a complete revolt on your hands because people, there's a psychological, we've talked about this before, there's a psychological component to how the government increases its authority over you. And they do this by slowly and incrementally redefining the relationship between authority and citizen. And it culminated with the government saying to you, your life is worth that of a basic insurance policy that turns out to be outrageously expensive. In order to be in good standing with your government, you must pay a, quote, private insurance company tribute, and then the government will come behind you and make sure you submit the form they give back to you when you do your taxes and submit it to the IRS. This is really where it all culminated, and the Supreme Court said that it's okay, that the government can force you to buy something. I mean, it's terrifying, it's horrifying, and I wish our Arkansas politicians, just on that principle alone, just on that one alone, would have said, you know what, we're not going to do anything under this umbrella that treats our citizens as if they were captives, that treats our citizens as if they were slaves, that sets a value on what, you have a child who's born. I'm a new father, by the way. My daughter turned 3 months last week. And you say, okay, here we go. This child, the government says this child is, this child's life is worth X, Y, Z, whatever whatever the open premium is going to be. You know, whatever the premium is, and that in order for her to be in good standing, in order for me to be in good standing with the government, once you're of age, you have to pay the government tribute. And I'm not even going to go over the car insurance argument, because if you believe that, I'm really sorry that you lack critical thinking skills in that regard. And at this point, I just can't even entertain it. I've got a text here. Ever try to get a hold of your insurance company? Wait until it's the federal government. Then you will see what unresponsive means. That's exactly my point. People are upset with Congress. If they've been upset with Congress for a long time, trying to get your insurance to straighten something up. There's already similarities. And the reason it's so bad is because they have a captive audience. Now they really have one with the individual mandate. They don't really have any customers that can just take a hike because we can't compete across state lines. And so they don't really care about quality. They don't care about price, and they don't care about quality. And we can't really do anything about it. It's really, insurance has become the equivalent of like the monetary policy shift that happened, when we went off the gold standard, when we no longer could protest. Used to you could go and exchange your dollar for a precious metal, you could go and you could get the gold for, because it was backed by gold. And so if you wanted to protest how the United States government was spending your money, what they were doing to the value of the dollar, the people of America could go. They could go to a bank and say, here, you know what? I don't want this tender. I'd rather have gold because it's gold and it's awesome. It has intrinsic value. We can't do that anymore. It's the same thing with government services. We don't have real ways to protest with our feet to make them feel the pain, There's not real, because you have a captive audience. You contrast that, for example, to the NFL that is now trying to be, oh no, our ratings are going down the tube. Well, that's because people are able to vote with their feet or their actions. There's a reason why, Target shares did what they did. You don't have that with the government, and you don't have it with insurance companies. Anyway, this story in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Go ahead, Joe, whenever you're ready. Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield has filed a lawsuit over a decision by the feds to bar the insurer from enrolling new customers. Blue Cross and Blue Shield is so freaked out by this. They asked for a hearing today because open enrollment is going to start very soon. When does open enrollment start for them? For Medicare, it does say it. Let me just keep reading. The Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid served notice the Little Rock-based company last month that it would face the sanction for failing to meet a requirement established under the 2010 Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. The law requires that at least 85% of the money a company collects in drug plan subsidies and premiums go toward customers' drug expenses, rather than administrative expenses and profits. Now, look, I'm a capitalist. You guys are capitalists. Profits in this context are coming from the taxpayers. I don't know. Maybe there's some that say socialism isn't all it's cracked up to be. Fascism isn't all it's cracked up to be. Since 2014, companies that fail to meet the required spending ratio, known as a medical loss ratio, have been required to refund money to the federal government. Companies that missed the target for 3 consecutive years, they've been making too much profit, are barred from enrolling new customers in drug plans for 1 year. Now, again, most of the people, I believe, at the top of Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is, here in Little Rock, but it's also, it's a Chicago-based outfit. I mean, that's really what this is. And, they certainly know a thing or two about, getting cozy with the government, right? I think most of these guys are fine with it. I'm telling you, these are the bureaucrats in waiting. They're already good at it. They're already good treating you like they don't owe you anything, that you're a captive audience. Healthcare company executives will make the perfect bureaucrats to manage, that's what they'll call it, the soft tyranny that is Medicare for all that they want. And look, I know we've got Republicans in the House, we've got Republicans in the Senate, we've got a Republican governor. I get it. I understand what you're saying. We don't need to be talking about this anymore. We don't need to be worrying about this anymore. I hope that's the case. I hope it's shut down. But look, there's a reason John McCain didn't want to do this. There's a reason John McCain killed any kind of Obamacare repeal. If you don't think that the deep state are the people that are so anti-Trump, they're now the Obamacare people have gotten used to it. The healthcare companies like it. They don't care about you. The government doesn't care about you when it comes to this kind of stuff. They think they can manage your life better than you can live it yourself. Old Ronald Reagan adage. And I'm telling you, they don't want anything to happen to Obamacare because they think they'll just outlast Trump, and whoever the next Democrat to get in will pick up the baton and push it over the finish line and give them their nice, cushy, bureaucratic, soft, tyrannical jobs inside the government when they just nationalize the whole thing. I'm just telling you, that's where we're going with this. They had to whittle the capitalistic business entrepreneurial spirit out of the insurance business, and it took decades. They had to say, we need you dependent, and the more the business was dependent on the government, the more they didn't really care about having to produce things of quality and value. And you can see the same thing happening with corporate welfare everywhere. I mean, the insurance companies are the top recipients of corporate welfare. And you have corporate welfare projects here in Arkansas where we give away existing business owners tax dollars who are trying to make it and provide for their employees, try to recruit businesses in here. And all that's doing is starting the process, but probably several decades out. But it's just starting the process of, just becoming, something akin to Venezuela. Well, we already gave you the taxpayer money, and you're going to come here and you're going to, quote, create jobs, and you're going to hire people with this taxpayer money that we're going to give you. It's just the beginning of trying to break down their entrepreneurial spirit, their sense of this is a private business, their sense of pride and ownership, and instead they start to believe and think there's no way this business could function without the assistance and the loopholes and the legal plunder from the government. So, what did Blue Cross and Blue Shield do? They've got their wrist slapped by the feds. They're all upset because here are the dates. New customers during this year's sign-up period, which begins on Sunday. So on Sunday the 15th, Medicaid drug plans open up, runs through December the 7th. So you can sign up for a change in your drug plans right now. If this lawsuit doesn't become effective and a judge doesn't point a stay on what the feds are going to do, nobody in Arkansas is going to change their drug plans, or at least not if you're on Blue Cross or Blue Shield. In the lawsuit filed Tuesday, Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield contends that Congress didn't intend the requirement to apply to standalone prescription drug plans. Instead, the lawsuit contends the requirement was meant to apply only to Medicare Advantage plans, which cover medical benefits and also often cover prescription drugs. This is now in the vastly capable hands of the U.S. District Judge Leon Holmes, who set a hearing for today on the insurer's request that he issue a temporary order lifting the suspension on enrollment while the lawsuit is pending. We'll see what Judge Holmes decides to do. I have Googled this recently because this article was today. This article came out today, but I have not found any publications yet, just in the short Google search, giving us a result on this. So I don't know if there was a decision made today. Is there going to be a decision made tomorrow, considering the enrollment starts on Sunday? And I guess you could open the enrollment, even if it was sometime next week. But we'll see. Blue Cross Blue Shield, everybody. Your healthcare government bureaucrats in waiting. All these insurance companies are. They really are. And, I'll be honest, and they're not a paid advertiser for this program at all. But, doing what I'm doing right now and having healthcare costs and things like that, having a new child, I went with Liberty Health Share. I'd used them just by myself. I've used them for the last year and a half, and I recently put my wife and my daughter on it. I'm just letting you know that's what I did. The prices are unbelievably low for a family of three. The phone number, 870-275-9799. We are going to take a break. We're going to be back in a moment to wrap up this hour of the Paul Harrell program. The Liberty Machine rolls on. Back in just a moment.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk Radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat-shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages, because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Okay, fine. Whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody.
Joe, I see here that you've joined our Facebook Live broadcast over at the Paul. I see it just popped up on my monitor here. Folks, if you want to watch us on Facebook and be a part of that conversation, that rolling conversation, you can do that. Facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. And that'll take you there. Give us a like or a follow while you're there. And go ahead and subscribe to notifications to when the show comes on air every day. And then it'll show up in your notifications of your Facebook to where you'll just be able to, get the best information you're going to get on Arkansas politics anywhere. Anywhere. Speaking of that, this is listener Mark. Hey, can we get the photo up here for a second? So we've had our Patreon page going now for about 4 weeks, and this is Mark, who became a Conduit Media Insider for $25 a month, which also gets him the Wednesday weekly video. It also gets him the access to the 2 surveys of guests that he wants us to interview, as well as topics he wants us to cover. And it also makes him a Conduit Media Insider. Funds, dependent on the funds that we raise from that particular group, where we're going to have live broadcasts and remotes and events and invite exclusively Conduit Media Insiders there. And you also get, with that $25 a month, a Liberty Machine T-shirt, which he is sporting right now. The back of the Liberty Machine T-shirt has the state of Arkansas on it, with the gears of the Liberty Machine in there and everything else. But Look at what we're building here, folks. We have armed Second Amendment patriots who are wearing the swag of the PHP. And so, Mark, I just want to thank you for posting that. I know you put that out on social media, and I appreciate that. And I hope you enjoy the T-shirt. All right, let's see here. But hurry before Facebook says that I'm trying to sell a firearm or something. Thank you. You got to get Mark off there, because. Well, I'm saying our friend Mark, with Facebook the way they are, that's a firearm, and Facebook will shut you down if they think that you're trying to sell a firearm or something on Facebook. I'm telling you, this is the thing now. I'm not making this up. This is a real thing now.
Joe Jett now works for Facebook. You show another picture of a firearm, I'm going to shut you down.
That's great. I was on the phone today with Mr. Josh Waters. I was talking to some new acquaintances who are in the liberty business, and I was talking with Josh Waters, and that got brought up about how he went down to the table and called for a roll call vote. And do you remember what happened with that, Joe? Do you remember that he predicted the exact thing that would happen?
Because someone did call for a roll call vote, and they said that the bill passed through committee. Josh Waters said, I would like this to go to a roll call vote because if it doesn't, then you're just going to do it by ear. And then Joe Jett said, are you questioning my integrity? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then moved on. And then they did the vote. Joe Jett said it passed. They actually did a roll call vote because someone asked for it. And sure enough, it didn't pass.
Yeah, and specifically, it takes 11 committee votes to get something out of committee, right? You've taken the quizzes, Joe. You know, right? That's the case. It takes 11. And that's specifically, he said, it takes 11 votes, and I'm afraid that there's going to be 7 or 8 yes votes, right? And you're going to call it passed. But then it'll have actually failed, and there won't be a roll call vote. This is what it sounded like. If you can give me my
committee to vote no, but I specifically want to ask the committee for a roll call on this vote. I'm afraid what's going to happen is that we'll go through this process and a voice vote will be called, and there might be 6 or 7 audible yeses when it takes 11 votes.
Excuse me, sir. Now you question my integrity of this committee. I'm not going to allow that to happen. If you're going to sit down at the end of the table, you discuss the bill, discuss the merit of the bill. It's important for this committee to have the integrity of everybody's honest opinion. But when you start questioning my integrity, I'm going to shut this thing down.
I no way.
That's what you just did, sir. You questioned my integrity, and I assure you, Democrats and Republicans both on this committee, not one of those folks all session has questioned my integrity, and I'm not going to have you sit down at the end of the table and start doing that.
Stop. Can you stop?
That was not my.
What's ridiculous here, folks, is this is it's like a straw man. Joe Jett here, all he did was make a straw man. Nobody was questioning your integrity. It was a bill everybody wanted to get out of the committee if you were a big government liberal. No one was questioning your integrity. They're questioning your ability to hear accurately because the system is so arbitrary. You've given the chair the power to just say, yeah, I think I heard a majority of yeses when there can be way more no's. And, this is how they know. They don't like it. They don't feel good about it. You know how I know? Most of the time, you know what a chair says when it's a close vote? Aye, yay, nay. You know what they say? I'm going to rule the ayes have it. Just by that phrase, just by that sentence, I'm going to rule the ayes have it. They look off, they're thinking, I'm going to rule the noes have it. It's so subjective. No, we're questioning your hearing. Every chairman, if we're going to keep this stupid system, the least they could do is make sure every single one of those chairmen get their hearing checked at their own expense. Joe, can I have my audio back for a second, please?
That was not my intention. I apologize.
That's the way I took it.
Okay, I apologize. My argument for the merits of this bill, though, is that a bill this important, I believe the taxpayers who will be paying this tax deserve a roll call vote on this.
Sir, you mentioned the word roll call one more time, and I'm shutting you down. That's the chair's prerogative.
Okay.
That's the committee's prerogative. If the committee members want a roll call, all they got to do is ask for a roll call. They're going to get it.
I'll move on.
And I expect you to be brief from this point forward.
Thank you.
In the exact scenario, there were 6 or 7 audible yes votes. Joe Jett called it passed, and then a member called a roll call vote, and it failed when they actually had to go on record. Josh Waters, a very courageous individual, and Joe Jett, maker of straw men.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
For the possibility here and see what kind of response we get. So, and that's where we are today.
Well, and I understand you're going to be. There's an event on Saturday, isn't that right?
Yes.
Where you're going to be speaking over in the western part of the state.
Yes, in Alma, Patrons that 746 group, which is the strongest pro-gun rights organization in the state of Arkansas. And by the way, that organization is growing by the day.
Yes.
And I expect, if not already, that it's going to have more lobbying power against the anti-gun people in our state legislature than the NRA. That's where it needs to be. We really need for state-run gun rights organizations in every state to really take control of the gun rights issues in their state. Because as we've seen, even on the national level, the NRA was very disappointing just this past week on the gun rights debate. I won't get into that any further. But just to let you know, that's going to be a big event, October 15th in Alma from 2 to 4 p.m. I'm going to be there. They're speaking to the folks. And then really that's sort of a kickoff launch, Paul, to a listening tour that I intend to do and had already planned to do, irrespective of the whole governor thing. I am in it for the people now. I am committed to the people of this state to fight for the people. They saw that when I was in House Judiciary, and I'm going to do that regardless of whether this exploratory committee develops and turns into a, yes, Jan Morgan needs to run for governor thing. Regardless, if that doesn't move forward, I'm still committed to the citizens of this state. I'm going to be fighting for them, not only on the gun rights front, but on a number of fronts, which is why I'm going to do this listening tour.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on events in every single county around the state so I can hear from the people and talk with the people and get to know better the primary concerns that the people of this state have that are not getting addressed.
And I want to correct something here. I said Saturday. It's actually the 15th is on a Sunday.
It's Sunday.
Yeah, just want to make sure we get that
Sunday
right.
afternoon.
Sunday in Alma.
Sunday afternoon, 2 to 4 p.m. in Alma, Arkansas.
We're talking
at Warren's Rec Room.
Warren's
Very
Rec Room.
casual, by the way. Very casual. You know, the thing about Jan Morgan is we're not doing $100 plate fundraising things here. This is for the people. And
right.
this whole, what I'm doing is about the people. And so we want to make sure that no one is excluded because they can't afford to come. And that's why I think there's a $5 cover charge just to make sure that the place that we're using is going to be covered on their expenses. So, yeah, it's
Good.
very casual. Come as
Good.
you are.
We're talking with Jan Morgan, who's now a potential Republican candidate for governor, announcing this exploratory committee, this listening tour. Now, you mentioned the same problems we're having in Arkansas are some of the same problems we're having in Washington, D.C. I want to play a little excerpt here. Sean Hannity recently interviewed Steve Bannon. Of course, Steve Bannon, big supporter of Roy Moore and, upsetting the establishment. And I just want to play a little bit of what Steve Bannon had to say on this Sean Hannity interview a couple days ago.
Got hostile Republicans that are apparently willing to go on a suicide mission if they don't get anything accomplished. They don't get the budget done. They can't repeal and replace. They don't even want to fund the border wall. If they don't do those things, they're going to suffer in 2018. President Trump's not up till 2020.
They have to understand. There's a basic agenda that President Trump ran on and won. He carried states that Republicans haven't carried in living memory. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. This agenda works. The American people voted for it. It's their responsibility. By the way, McConnell would not be majority leader unless Trump in North Carolina, in Missouri, in Wisconsin was able to carry those senators across the finish line. It is incumbent upon them to back President Trump's plan, but you don't see it. What you saw what Corker said today is what they talk about on Capitol Hill. That's when I left the White House. Remember, I said I'm going after the Republican establishment, and we're going to go after them. We're going to challenge. There's a coalition
Give me
coming
the states.
together. There's a coalition coming together that's going to challenge every Republican incumbent except for Ted Cruz, whether it's Utah, Wyoming, whether it's in
Orrin
Nevada,
Hatch in Utah.
Orrin Hatch in Utah. Today, Boyd Matheson, who is the chief of staff for Mike Lee, came out and said that he's going to set up an exploratory committee.
North Dakota.
In North Dakota, we don't have it. That's Hobbs County. But we're going. By the way, we're going in Mississippi against Wicker.
Who you pick? McDaniel.
McDaniel, Mississippi. These names are all going to come out over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be about 15.
So it's not going to be. I know a lot of people didn't like in 2010, for example, Delaware. Well, I thought Christine O'Donnell was a nice woman. but you're picking rock-solid credentialed candidates.
We're spending a ton of time with the grassroots organizations to make sure that these candidates are fully vetted. You're going to see people announced this week that are going to have experience in government. You're going to see some outsiders that are authentic, and these people are real. It's not like 2010. 2010 was the beginning of the Tea Party when things were first getting going. You're going to see real candidates, and by the way, they're going to take on incumbents in every state, and they're going to take on the Democrats after
You
that.
said in the 60 Minutes interview you're a street fighter.
All right, now
I'm a
stop
street
right
fighter.
there. Now, he goes on. He talks about grassroots Americans across the country stepping into state races. There's more to the interview and everything else. I mean, Jan, is it possible that if you do decide to run, Steve Bannon may be running around Arkansas at some point?
I don't know. That would be nice. I was the Great American Alliance when Dr. Sebastian Gorka and Sarah Palin were brought in by Steve Bannon's PAC. I was asked to come and speak at that same event, and I did speak at that event in Alabama to help Judge Roy Moore get elected, and we did, and of course it was successful. It was a huge success. And what the message the people of Alabama sent was once again the message that the establishment Republican Party refused to get when
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, it's hour number 2. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You've found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Joe, just for a second, I'm going to out-nerd you just for a moment. I recently started, because I finally got my copy, my DVDs back from family. I recently restarted the Battlestar Galactica series. As I'm out nerding you because you haven't seen this. It was a sci-fi, sci-fi series, and it was back during like 03, 04, 05.
Yeah, I remember them.
Anyway, really, but you haven't seen the series or whatever.
I haven't seen it from beginning to end. I've seen bits and pieces.
I'm starting it again. I'm a new father. They're late nights. There's plenty of time to what else am I going to do? So, me and the missus. It's one of our favorite TV shows, probably my top 5 television show of all time. I mean, that's how good this series was. And it dawned on me, and I'm sorry if this is over your head, but the whole thing, you got to find out who's a Cylon. All the Cylons are now human, or most of them, and they look like us or whatever. And that is it dawned on me, I was like, that's like the vetting process. You got to make sure your Republican candidate isn't really a Cylon. You got to make sure that these people actually are, like you, and they're not just disguised as you.
When we finally get our glossary out there,
yeah.
We'll have Cylons in our glossary. We'll say "See Republicans."
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's actually really good. So if you don't get the underworld reference, then maybe you'll get the BSG reference. So yesterday on the program. And we'll be replaying this probably tomorrow during our bottom of the hour, top of the hour breaks for our online audiences. We had Jacob Bundrick. We had Dr. Tom Snyder on from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics. And the information, I had some time to kind of digest what it was they said during that interview, and I kind of compiled it, and I want to go over more in depth about what they said and just reiterate how oppressive the state of Arkansas's regulatory environment is. This is not something that we're over. This is not something that I'm sensationalizing. I'm not exaggerating this. This is a real problem, and this is a record that these guys have to stand by, that they have failed. They have failed to stand up to the special interest. They have failed to stand up to the occupational licensing. Dr. Tom Snyder wrote a paper about occupational licensing and the effects that it has on Arkansas. And I want to go over some of that, right? So basic points, again, if you don't know what an occupational license is, it's like a driver's license. You got to have a driver's license to legally drive a car, right? It's the same thing if you want to give somebody a manicure and you want to get money for it, you're going to have a license. If you want to be a barber, you're going to have to get a license. A vet technologist, an optician, a cosmetologist, you got to have a license for these things if you take a dime for the service.
Or if you want to carry a gun in the state of Arkansas, you need a license.
If you want to carry a gun, you need a license. Yeah.
Thanks, Governor.
Occupational licensing administered by the Arkansas State Police. All right. So the Institute for Justice, listen to this. The Institute for Justice found that Arkansas has the second most burdensome licensing requirements in the United States. And yet, if you'll go read some establishment Republicans' Facebook posts, when they respond to the criticism they hear on this broadcast, or they respond to the criticism that they'll hear, the truth that they hear on conduitforaction.org, they start talking about all these amazing things that Republicans have done. They start talking about the unemployment rate, But you know what they don't mention in all of their numbers, and they try to claim that they've saved the state money and all of this other stuff? You don't ever hear them take a strong stand against able-bodied adults getting welfare who are choosing not to work. You don't hear that. You don't ever hear them take a stand on the budget. You don't ever hear them take a stand on spending. You don't hear these core issues being discussed at all. Instead, our money gets spent on Asa Hutchinson traveling around the country or the world trying to get I don't know what trying to get companies to come here so we can give them money. The Institute for Justice found that Arkansas has the second most burdensome licensing requirements, but it gets worse than that, okay? Hawaii is the only state worse off than us. A recent report by the Mercatus Center. The Mercatus Center is at George Mason University. They highlighted Arkansas's licensing regime. This is for the below median income occupations, the below median income level occupations. So this excludes your doctors or your lawyers, stuff like that. This is more like your fire alarm installers, your door repair contractors, things like that. We require 689 days of education or experience on average per license. We require 689 days of education or experience per license in Arkansas. Mississippi, 155 days. Missouri, 220 days. New York, 283 days. Now, just compare those again. I wanted to camp out there for a lot longer yesterday. New York State averaged 283 days to get a license to go work in a specialty field or something like that, or a manual labor field. And in Arkansas, you move here, and you're going to have to go through a 689-day program. Or if you are coming out of high school, 689 days. That's crazy. Our state government requires more than twice as many days to get a license than the state of New York. It's harder to get these jobs in Arkansas than almost any other state except Hawaii. Let me say that again. It's harder to get these jobs in Arkansas than almost any other state. By far the most expensive in the nation. 4 times the second highest state, which is Arizona, averaging $679 if you want to do business. In Tennessee, it only costs you $25 to get a license. If you want to make money installing mobile homes, you might try Tennessee first. It's unbelievable when you start looking at this kind of stuff. This is an embarrassment. We're on the brink of having to pay higher taxes if Donald Trump's, well, higher than we would if Donald Trump's plan goes by. I think doubling the $12,000 to $24,000. I think that's going to really help a lot of folks. But people blame Asa on that. They say he squandered the opportunity that he has. Well, what about these regulations? Licensing, listen to this. This is what Dr. Snyder has found in his paper, the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, that licensing does not improve quality or service received. More licensing requirements means more unemployment and less people in the labor force. The Arkansas Center for Research and Economics has research on their website. That's uca.edu/ACRE, if you want to check into it. You know what more licensing means in the state, especially the licensing that has nothing to do with public safety? More licensing also means higher prices. It means less competition. It also means more, get this, crime. You've heard Brian King on this program talk many times, Senator King, about the crime problem that we have and the failure of the Republican establishment to do anything about it because it costs money and we need every dime to pay for welfare programs in this state because we are a welfare state. We are a candy land of entitlements, as one senator said. Less employment opportunities, though, for regular folks and for former criminals means more crime. Arizona State professor found that recidivism rates are higher in states that had more licensing requirements. So more obstacles to success. Let's say you do make a mistake. Let's say you don't want to go back to jail. Well, now you've got a lot more obstacles and not a lot of disposable income, presuming if you getting out of jail or paying your fines or whatever. How does this all affect entrepreneurship in Arkansas? Our state provides targeted economic development incentives for business to come here. It's a scam. That's my words. It is. It's a scam. Evidence suggests this method is not effective, and Acre has some great stuff on that. Why not do something that will cost us nothing? Lower licensing requirements to encourage more voluntary cooperation and more creation of jobs and business. Yes, Joe.
I'd like to say something real quick. I'm looking at our Facebook live feed real quick.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm reading. I'm not looking at that right now. Go ahead.
We have two comments I would like to address real quick from the great Patriots of Act 746. When I said that we need a license to carry our weapons, I'm being it's sarcasm.
Yeah, of course.
We were totally joking.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. We do need to make that clear. Act 746 gives us constitutional carry.
Yeah. When we were talking about licensing, that's what the government thinks we need, is licenses to carry our guns.
Okay, I see Rick. Rick writes, now wait a minute, you two. I don't need no stinking license for my gun.
And I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree too, Rick. I agree too. Thanks for catching that. Because seriously, there are people listening that may not listen every day. They may not catch the segments, and they may not know.
Yeah, we were being total sarcasm right then.
Okay, that's great. Finishing up here, what else do we have? So we have a hard time. Okay. Anytime you have an economic downturn, things are obviously worse off, right? They mentioned this in the interview yesterday. If you lose your real estate job, you can't easily become an optician, massage therapist, or door repair contractor in Arkansas, right? You can't just, let's say you're doing something, things going well, the bottom falls out, and you're like, you know what, I got to do something else to make money. Well, all full stop. You can't just go do something else that you're good at because you're going to have all of these burdensome licensing requirements. The crime rates in Arkansas are high right now. People can't find jobs very easily because of our licensing problems. If they could, they'd be less likely to commit more crime. They do say that we have low labor force participation rates. 58.1% in 2016 versus Missouri's 65.4%. Missouri has a much lower licensing regulations. Missouri has a much lower burden on licensing, and they have a higher labor force participation rate. So, special interests, that's what we're fighting here, folks. special interests. And the Republican establishment has not been willing to take the heat and seriously reform so many regulations that are no longer about the public safety and are more about protecting industry, keeping prices high, and competition down. Very good stuff. It was Jacob Bundrick on the program yesterday and Dr. Tom Snyder from the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics. Check them out. Check them out. It's UCA. Hang on, let me get the website real quick one more time. uca.edu/ACRE. We got to take a break. Back in a minute.
Protecting your business means protecting your data. But is your business really prepared to handle the growing threat of things like cybercriminals and ransomware? At iTex, they're committed to deploying the best security solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are security needs. Be proactive now and equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal.
Ethics.
Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, Loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. The Paul Harrell Program.
want your very own copy of the Paul Harrell program's impression of the session 2017 montage, it is for sale over at paulharrell.com. Or you could just you could subscribe to Patron for $5 a month at least, and you'll get it because it's already there for you. This is what a little bit of it sounds like. We haven't played this part for you before. Listen.
To limit where this thing's going, and I believe right now it's up. The finances are going to get out of control.
With 76 Republicans in the House, were your expectations met?
No, we didn't do what I thought we could do. There were a lot of things that I thought we could pass that did not pass. The biggest thing that bothered me, again, was the number of bills that proposed tax increases. Didn't expect that. I thought that we would at least cap the Medicaid expansion.
Marcus Richmond with us from District 21.
Well, I think that there were some things that we did, and we did it well. But at the same time, I think there was room for improvement. We need to be, I believe, just a little more imaginative than constantly trying to figure out some way to increase some tax somewhere. And then dealing with, the internet sales and those type of things, you can say what you want, tell everybody that it's not a new tax, but if you haven't been paying it, as far as everybody's concerned, it is new tax. If we're going to call ourselves Republicans, we need to look at the party platform and consider what's in that, as far as, smaller, more efficient government, trying to be efficient with the tax revenue, looking for ways that we can allow the people to keep as much money as possible. And I think that in order to do that, and again, this is one of my frustrations. I was happy that, there was some tax cuts, but then when you look at how the tax cuts were done, we really just kind of shifted obligations around. And in order to really cut taxes, you've got to find some place to cut some spending. And we just didn't do that effectively.
Feel free, tell us what your impression was.
Well, let me start with, I was listening to your program. I missed your earlier segment with Senator Stubblefield, and I wish I would have caught that. But I was listening yesterday, and one of the things the questions you asked was, who was happiest now that the Arkansas legislature is out of session? And I think you said the governor was. I would disagree.
You disagree?
I think the state of Arkansas at large is happy to see us out of session.
It seemed like the leadership of the Republican Party, their goal was to control what wound up on Governor Asa Hutchinson's desk, and specifically,
no question about that. No question about that. That's exactly right. The chair called off meetings. We would hold after session meetings for maybe 30 minutes and not allow certain bills to be heard. And it was pretty obvious what was going on.
Terry Rice, the chairman of that committee, Jeremy Hutchinson, seems like there was kind of an allergy to tackle any social issues, any more real conservative gun legislation or, privacy protections. There seemed to be kind of a resistance to even meet towards the end, so you wouldn't even have a chance to hear some of your colleagues' legislation or ideas.
And that all is the power of the chair, and that's the reason there's so much in the legislature that a lot of people don't understand. Government is kind of like a casino, and I'm not a big gambler, but I understand how it works. It's stacked in favor of the House. And the rules and the way things are stacked in favor of the House government. So when you appoint chairman, they have leeway. I mean, that's part of the rules. They have leeway to call and to not call, and you have things to overcome as trying to be as conservative as we can be.
That was Senator Terry Rice. That is a compilation of all of the impression of the sessions I did with several legislators, senators, state reps, you name it. It's 34 minutes long. It is for sale up at paulharrell.com. We'll mail you a copy for a nominal fee that goes to support the research that goes to put all this stuff together for you every single day. Or if you want to become a Patreon subscriber right now for $5 a month, this DVD is $20 on our website, but and there's pictures and everything's transcribed for you. But if you'd rather for $5 a month, you can get this right now and sign up at patreon.com/thephp and watch it watch it for yourself. We got to take a break. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
People in this country elected Donald Trump. Steve Bannon has declared war on the establishment. And Paul Harrell, what we are going to do is send them a message. We intend to send the establishment yet another message that the people are fed up. We are sick and tired of the establishment Republican Party telling us, we know better than you what is in your best interest, so sit down, shut up, be a good little Republican, and send us your money. We are sick of that. The people of this country are standing up, and I believe that the people of this state have had enough as well. We shall see during this exploratory committee time.
Well, you're exactly right. It is going to be very interesting. But just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said and what we just heard Steve Bannon say, people who are maybe hostile towards the Donald Trump agenda. Okay, let's just talk about how that affects Arkansas. Let's just the Obamacare repeal effort. Now, the one that they, and John McCain killed it. The real one, the one that we were trying to do. He killed it. We all know that. And it wasn't my perfect choice, right? I wanted them to do away with the whole thing. Some people said it was still Obamacare light. But our governor, Asa Hutchinson, he was to the left of Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. He went on MSNBC and CNN and criticized the plan.
His favorite networks, by the way.
He criticized the plan, which is essentially, was going against what Donald Trump wanted to do. I mean, so we have just in that issue alone an example of him not wanting Obamacare to be repealed.
Yes, and Governor Asa Hutchinson's record is egregious. I feel sorry for anybody in his campaign at this point who's going to have to try to help him find creative ways to defend his record, period. And of course, I've outlined on my pages a number of issues that I have with his record on in a number of different areas. So, yes, and when you said, let me just back up a little bit. When you said the Trump agenda, here's the problem, and here's what the establishment fails to see. It's not really the Trump agenda. It is we the people. It's our agenda. Donald Trump is simply the person that we sent to make it happen. And every time that Republicans fail to back him up, they are basically, they're not saying no to Donald Trump. They're saying no to we the people. It is the establishment better get that. That's the way we view it. That's the way the grassroots citizens view it. This is the man we sent. We sent him with an agenda, and every time he tries to fulfill the agenda that we sent him with, that we elected him on, you, the establishment, are standing in the way. It's not about you. It's about us. So it is a personal slap in the face to the forgotten people of this country. Every time the establishment Republicans stand up and say no to the president. And they need to realize that.
That's exactly right. Jan Morgan, I appreciate you coming on the program so much.
Anytime,
look forward to doing it again soon. Good luck to you. Keep us posted. And have fun this weekend in Elma.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Okay. Be safe. Folks, that wraps up the interview. We're going to take a break. The Liberty Machine's going to roll on. We're going to be back here in just a moment.
Paul Harrell, your voice for limited government and small business in Arkansas.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. You know what that sound is? Yes, that is the sound of, that just means it's our Conservative Future segment. I want to welcome to the program future conservative or conservative now, young conservative, Austin Wilson joins us by phone. Austin, welcome to the Paul Harrell program, sir.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So you are you the president, the head of the North Central Arkansas Young Republicans? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell us, first off, tell us about that organization, like everything we need to know about the North Central Arkansas Young Republicans.
Well, we're newly founded. We started about a year ago. We cover the Marion, Baxter, and Boone County of Arkansas, so the North Central Arkansas part of Arkansas. We cover 3 counties, which is the first time ever done. Ages from 18 to 40. Well, we welcome anybody. Our main objective is just kind of get millennials involved, make sure they know they have a word to their government. We also provide campaign opportunities, working pool opportunities, and very active in community events.
So if you're 41, you're saying, you're not necessarily saying that you're old, but you're saying you're no longer young.
That is the age bracket, but if you're 41, you're still welcome into our program, but you would be a associate member.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's so you've made provisions for the. What would you call that? You don't want to victimize the age challenged. We don't want to do that in this day and age. We're Austin.
Oh no,
Austin. So tell us. All right. First of all, how did you get involved with this? Like, what's your background? And how old? First of all, how old are you, Austin?
I'm 22.
22. And are you in school?
I've not went to college yet. I have been not forced, but encouraged to go study college and get a degree in something. So I am hopefully getting to start that next semester.
Okay. Well, so tell me a little bit about because I think it's great. I don't think it's bad that you're not in college yet. You're not in school yet. I think we're fast becoming. It's not a necessity as much as it used to be. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can go and learn a skill in Google and everything else, but I mean, it still works for a lot of folks. Austin, how did you become a conservative? Like, what? You're young. You're 22 years old. How did you become a conservative?
That's just the way I was raised, honestly, off of beliefs. When I went to go register vote, honestly, I didn't know the difference between a Democrat and a Republican, so I Googled it. I didn't go to my parents. I didn't go to, neighbors, because I knew if I went to them, they would probably try to sway me. And so I Googled the difference, kind of read my beliefs and what I believed in, and then, my studies show that, Republican is who I am, so.
Yeah. Oh, that's very so tell me, Austin, what does conservatism mean to you? When you hear that word, it can mean a lot of different things these days. What does it mean to you?
In my heart, I'm all about community, so conserving small local towns. So kind of conserving, home-based.
You mean like local government, like the government governs best when it's closest to the people, that sort of thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who did you back in the Republican presidential primary? I mean, it was a wild race. I was a Ted Cruz guy, of course, until
I was Donald Trump from day one.
Donald Trump from day one. One. Wow. Well,
I even have an American flag suit in my car right now, about to go wear it for him.
So you and my buddy Richard Castor both were Trump supporters from day one. That's pretty good. So it was a wild. I mean, I'm 33. You're 22. I don't think we'll ever see a presidential election like that ever again, ever. And I'm kind of disappointed because we got a lot more elections to live through, I hope. But I it's got to be worse if you're 22. I don't think we'll ever see one as wild as that, because, I mean, it was just, him winning. It was so improbable. And, people wake up every day. Business owners wake up every day. Really grateful that Hillary Clinton isn't living in the White House.
Correct.
So what do you think? I mean, you think it was a wild election?
It was very wild. You had to the left somebody I did not want in the president. I told my parents if Hillary got in the White House, I would move. I was one of those guys.
Wow.
And my family's from Minnesota, so they were very all for her. So I haven't really talked to my family since then. And then,
so does your family, Austin, know that you're the president of North Central Arkansas Young Republicans? And did you start this group, by the way?
Yes, they know, and yes, I did start this group.
Okay, so the Minnesota family, they do know that you're a young Republican?
Yes.
Okay, and what do they think of that?
They just kind of put me as the black sheep, and we really don't conversate anymore. I know that's kind of sad, but...
Yeah, it is. It's sad that politics would, divide us like that. And a lot of it has to do with, it really all depends on who you get your news from as well. I mean, if you're focused on a singular source, I'm not a fan of just a singular source all the time, because you just never know, what they may even leave on the cutting room floor. But when you start, it's funny, when you do talk to people who are leftists and you start to question or give them the truth about what a particular story is, it's almost like you're attacking their religion. And this is just my experience. What is your experience?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like yours, I feel like I'm a little more religious than the rest of my family, but we've never really talked about politicals or religion until this year. And then I learned a lot, and I was like, let's sit down at the dinner table and let's, figure out why you're voting for Hillary, for instance. Half of them were for Hillary and half of them were for Bernie Sanders. And I was like, can you explain why?
Mm-hmm.
You can, explain why and support yourself. I'll be fine with it. But, none of them really knew how to back themselves.
Yeah. So do you know anything? Do you follow, kind of switching gears here, do you follow any state politics, Austin, at all?
A little bit, not as much as I should.
Yeah.
The closest thing I do have to state politics is my current state rep, Jack Fortner. I ran his campaign, and that's how I got into where I am. Okay.
All right. So let me ask you this. I met you at, I met you at the Baxter County dinner, and that's when it's when we exchanged information cards, and I was like, hey, I've got a young, a conservative future segment where we try to interview younger people. You certainly qualify. And, we try to show, the older generation maybe, hey, look, there's people coming up who actually do kind of believe like that you believe. But I'm curious, at the Baxter County Lincoln Day dinner, there was, a great speaker there by the name of Jan Morgan, and I thought she did a tremendous job. And she brought up a whole lot. I mean, so if you're not listening to this program every day, which we're on, Mountain Talk 97, and we do talk about state issues as much as we can, and you can get the podcast. But she really brought to light a lot of this, this concept of, hey, Republicans need to actually be Republicans, and they need to follow the party platform. They need to vote the way they campaign. Were you aware that we have such widespread dysfunction among the leadership down in Little Rock?
I knew we had a little bit between the governor and, representatives, but I didn't know it was such large scale.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think the solution is? I mean, what, in all seriousness, what do you think we, the people, have got to do to get through to these people that, hey, look, we're voting for reform because we're tired of high taxes. We're tired of being the highest tax state around. We're tired of, the regulations. We just went over the regulations this last long segment, at the top of this hour. So what do you have any ideas? I mean, you're 22 years old, and I'm sure you got ideas thinking outside the box. So what do you think we should do?
I don't know if it's really idea, but I'm going to kind of pull from Jan Morgan. Like she said at the Lincoln Day dinner. When people are out campaigning, make sure you feel it in your heart and actually get to know the person personally, not only as a politician or as a statesman, but get to know them as a person, see their beliefs, and then once they're in that, office, make sure they're actually fulfilling their duties. Kind of start there. Then if they're not doing their duties, then look at getting somebody else reelected. But I think with politics or statesmen, there is always a fear of people being paid to do something dirty under the table.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and we've seen that. I mean, you have Jake Files over in Fort Smith mentioned in an FBI affidavit about wire fraud, and still no charges yet. But then you do have charges against John Woods, and you've got Mike and Neil pleading guilty to this massive corruption. And the Republican Party of Arkansas is still not calling for the resignation of Jake Files, at least publicly. The Democrat Party finally did. It's very, very strange times right now in Arkansas, and I think a lot of the goal is to keep as few people as possible from finding out what's really going on down there in their name. Austin, we're talking with Austin Wilson. He's the president of the North Central Arkansas Young Republicans. Austin, real quick, is there a website, Facebook page, or something if people wanted to go and get more information about your organization?
Yes, we have a Facebook, Instagram, and a Twitter. We don't Twitter much. I don't know. And then you can always call me or reach out to me. If I'm allowed to, I'll give you that contact information over the air.
Yeah, do it.
I'm Austin Wilson. The phone number is 870-416-2051. And the email is ncYRS@gmail.com.
All right. Austin, we appreciate it. And, hey, let me encourage you. Get on Twitter because there's Go ahead.
Do I have time for one question for you?
Yes, absolutely, Austin.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So last night, I think it was last night, you were talking about millennials helping out in reaching, getting uninvited from technology. I think that was last night. What's your suggestion on us bringing, how to get us involved? Anything I can do?
Hang on. First of all, I'm trying to remember what it is I said about millennials and technology. Can you be more specific? Was it me trying to say? Go ahead.
The fear of Home Depot getting shut down because they didn't know how to reach out to.
Yeah.
Because of the technology.
Okay. Yeah, so I remember this. So this was a story. It was an article on Zero Hedge, and Home Depot's freaking out because millennials are coming of age, like Austin here, and they don't know how to use hammers and nails. I'm not saying Austin doesn't, but they don't know how to use hammers and nails, and Home Depot's freaking out because they need these people to buy their products. So Home Depot's having to invest all of this money into tutorial programs about you mean you take the heavy object and you put the pointy object in the wood? I mean, it's really, and the Home Depot executive was actually on record as saying, I really thought these videos were going to be very condescending, and I was worried about people getting offended who are millennials. But no, they haven't, because they actually need the training, because we're not doing anything with our hands anymore. We're not learning these valuable skills. And so, Austin, what I would say to you is the solution to get through to some of these millennials is, I think the fact that you're not in college yet is a good thing. You got to understand something. Everybody says you should already be in college. The world and the way our society is structured now is that most, and I know guidance counselors are lovely people, but most guidance counselors, they measure their success at a local high school by what percentage of their graduating class is going to college and going to take on that debt. And that is not necessarily the case. You're 22 years old. You haven't gone to college yet. You've taken some time to think about it. You've been productive. You started the North Central Arkansas Young Republicans. I just feel like if more people were like you, Austin, things would be a lot different. Looking into these skilled trades, the crafts, the welding, the things like that is really where I think we have to go, because the sad thing is, if it were left up to your generation right now, if everybody just vanished, nobody would know how to do anything that makes the world go around, that makes our civilization work right now. I don't know if that answers your question, Austin. What do you think?
It does, so basically getting more involved with the, hands-on stuff, don't worry. I mean, technology is great, because obviously if we didn't have technology right now, I wouldn't be on your show. Well, but there's got to be a fine middle.
Yeah, and
somewhere.
I've been amazed at how, I guess about a year ago, my vacuum cleaner broke. or at least I thought it broke. And I'm not the most technically inclined guy as far I don't. But what did I do? I use technology and I use YouTube or Google to figure out how to take this thing apart and actually fix it myself without having to go buy a brand. So you can learn how to do so much stuff with it gets right to the tip of your fingertips. It just takes practice, repetition, and having an idea. And so that's one of the ways technology can actually help millennials, learn how to do stuff with their hands again. You know what I mean? Right. So anyway, Austin, I appreciate it. It's a great question. The North Central Arkansas Young Republicans, Austin Wilson, everybody. Austin, I appreciate you coming on the program, okay?
Thank you for having us.
All righty. Folks, that concludes yet another segment of our Conservative Future segment. If you want to be on, call me. Leave me a voicemail. Send me a text if you know somebody who needs to be on and they are a young conservative. 870-275-9799. Back in a moment.
Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations, you have made it to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, where we strive to offer politicians the very best in ambiguously specific language, the purpose of which is to allow our politician bosses to grow government and keep their constituents in the dark. This yields two beneficial outcomes. First, the government-growing politicians stay in office, and second, we at the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language get to remain in the shadows and get to keep our jobs. Now, it's time for technocrat training drills. Johnny?
Yes?
A politician wants to use the healthcare system to punish those who have and redistribute their wealth. What is the appropriate language to use in this situation to make an unpopular idea acceptable to the public?
I would emphasize that these ideas would make their healthcare more affordable and make sure the public understands if they already have adequate healthcare, nothing will change for them.
Very good, Johnny. Much progress since last time. Next up, let's have Susie. Susie, your politician has been caught in, dare I say it, a lie.
What kind of a lie?
It doesn't really matter, but in the spirit of the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, I will give you a good hypothetical scenario. Dozens of politicians have been thrown out of office for supporting a socialist health care program. So the remaining politicians get together and they pass a bill to, quote, end the program, end quote. But they really want to keep it. What should they do, Susie?
May I ask a question for more information?
Certainly.
Has the word lie been used by the political opposition?
Yes.
I know. They should change the name of the program. Maybe use the word works to make the sheeple think it's for working folk. Then they should go on the attack and get the public distracted. I would advise the politician to publicly question why our political dialogue has become so uncivilized and tell them to claim using the word lie, no matter how accurate, is a personal attack on his or her character. And if they admit to any wrongdoing at all, they must replace the word lie with words like misspoke, misstatement, misrepresent, or mislead.
Amazing! Excellent work, Susie. I feel like the student has really become the teacher. You will make a terrific addition to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language.
All hands on deck. This is a Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language emergency. Several politicians are scrambling after being exposed by some talk radio host. Let's move it, people. They need our help.
The Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language. You vote 'em in, and we keep 'em in. PHP Parody.
All right, Joe, I didn't mean to offend you. We're in this last segment with a young conservative, Austin Wilson, and I basically made a generalization that a lot of millennials don't know how to do anything with their hands, and and apparently that offends Joe because Joe does know how to do stuff and build stuff.
Yes, I have. Growing up in high school, my stepdad was the Skills USA, so VOTEC teacher at my high school, and in my time, like whenever a construction project was not finished or just the last few details need to be done, my stepdad would always get me to help. So I learned how to.
You got roped into it.
Yeah, pretty much. So at first I didn't. At first I didn't really care for it, but I started to learn to like it as I got.
There are exceptions,
as I got older.
And there's no question. I can generally say that millennials who live in the South probably obviously know how to do way more stuff than with their hands and stuff like that than people in urban environments. I think that you can clearly say something like that, and I don't have any statistical evidence like on my side, but I mean, come on. I mean, it's the difference between living in a rural community and an urban community. I learned how to do stuff just by being around my dad, and I didn't. I mean, my dad was always like, "Watch me," and sometimes I did, and I wish I'd have watched him a lot more.
Yeah,
to be quite honest.
But just think about it. In terms of doing stuff with your hands, getting down and dirty and all that stuff, there's less opportunity to do that in an urban environment compared to a rural one.
And the decline of the family.
That too.
Just like I said with the dad, it's the decline of the family is going to make that stuff less. People have been talking about there's golf. There's way less people who are entering golf and stuff like that, and people want to blame it on socioeconomic disparities and things like that. No, you know what it really is? It's like, who teaches you how to play golf? Your dad. That's who teaches you how to play golf. You know what I'm saying? And as that family goes, and that's a whole other thing. I will tell you this: with my dad, we had to see when I was in like the 7th or 8th grade, we started renovating my parents' basement. It was like sheetrock and everything else, and so I learned how to sheetrock and mud and do all of that. Really came in handy later on when I was 18 years old, and I tried to wall jump off the wall, and I put my foot clean through the. I knew how to fix it.
Nice.
Anyway, so I was kind of crazy back then.
One of my most interesting experiences with doing stuff, just construction-based stuff, I think I was in the 10th grade maybe. My grandparents had just pulled up all the carpet in their house, and they wanted hardwood floors. So me, my stepdad, and my cousin went and hardwood their floor.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Like,
what's interesting? Here's some more personal stuff. So, me and my wife. Okay, my wife loves to do things like build things.
Likes to
loves to do projects. I'm talking heavy duty stuff, hammer, nails, screws, drill driver, all of that stuff. And we kind of have a rule, and that if there's something that needs to be like assembled and put together, one of us has to do it. We cannot both do it together, because some of our biggest arguments, and it's because I think I speak a completely different language, but some of our biggest arguments are about how to put this or that together. And what's interesting is my wife, she was she has just a degree in theater, and I have a theory behind this, right? So when it comes to constructing and building sets and things like that, that's all comes along with it. So I have a theater background as well, but I kind of already knew my way around tools. But when she was learning all that stuff, not from a young person's standpoint. She was learning that as basically an adult. That it's the same reason why they say women are better shooters, better marksmen than men, because we grew up playing cowboys and Indians with plastic guns, and we develop all these bad habits of how we should shoot. So when you actually get a real gun, you have to break all the things that the movies have taught you, and things like that. Women don't grow up that way. It's kind of the same thing. So she is so proficient at doing doing construction type stuff, measuring twice, cutting once, and that sort of thing, because I believe she actually got a more of a beginning end tutorial when she was essentially an adult. Not this, when it was me, it was Dad being like, "Hey, are you watching me do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me go make a layup real quick, and I'll be right back to see how you're fixing, this flat tire." You know what I'm saying? It's pretty. It's just my personal theory about some of that stuff. But yeah, Joe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to generalize your entire generation.
Hey, it's okay.
You clearly can do some things with your hands, and I'm sure there are other millennials that can as well. But I'm just saying.
So just real quick, I bought a TV stand the other day. For my new TV that I got, and I really one of my favorite things is to put stuff together. I had the most fun just putting this dumb entertainment set together for 2 hours than I had probably that entire week just doing stuff on my own. Just sitting there with tools in hand, putting stuff together.
And that's another thing that people are not getting. When you do build something, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And at the end comes, at least with me, a sense of accomplishment, the same kind of accomplishment I feel when I end a radio program. We will be back tomorrow for Johnny Cash Friday, Arkansas. Thanks for listening. Be safe.